Hashtag get to Febag pod morning recap at Vinciano the Prince.
Wake up and get to the bag, god damn it. Lord woke us up, we might as well get to this bag. Now, football season is officially concluded. Fall football is now done. The Super Bowl is finito. The results are in. Patrick Mahomes, a.k.a. the Magic Man, is still the Magic Man. I told y'all that the Chiefs was going to win this. It had to go to overtime, which was cool. First half wasn't as exciting because we're talking about, huge plays. I would say Usher performing probably was the most exciting thing going on from the first half going into the second half, but they fall hard the first half. The 49ers just couldn't put points on the board like that. That's what it boils down to. One of their few touchdowns was a trick play, and the defense, they got after it. I did almost everything possible to try to hit on my parlay, okay? And basically, I didn't hit both tickets because Deebo Samuel couldn't give me 40 yards, and he couldn't give me 70 or more yards. So Deebo Samuel was on and off hurt last night. He just wasn't as dynamic as he normally is, which was a big part in the 49ers not winning and a big part of me not hitting my parlay. So, big shout out to the Chiefs and the Magic Man. I've been telling y'all all year, if you want to be the man, you have to beat the man. That's just how it goes. Now, if you're like me, when you were watching the Super Bowl, you saw the sideline antics of Travis Kelce before he started cooking in the second half, where he wasn't really being a part of the game plan and he was taken off the field. So what does he do? He gives Andy Reid a good nice bump, okay? He gives him a good nudge, and then he gets in his face and yells at him. Now, you had people commenting on this. AB said if that was me, I'd have been out the league. When AB, child, stop it. You done got so many chances. You done squandered it so many times. Come on now. But I do think this was out of pocket. I do think, even though they won the Super Bowl, I do think they have a Travis Kelce problem. And if they don't calm that down, that may be, something that's going to bite them later on. Because you just can't be treating your head coach like that. He's an older guy. He wants respect, you know what I'm saying? This is a Hall of Fame coach we're talking about here. And to be honest, I mean, he knows what he was doing. Because when it was time to activate you, you were activated. So, yeah. Crazy stuff going on in Chiefs sidelines. All right, so we know Usher was going to come do his thing. He did his thing, played all the hits, you know what I'm saying? All the hits that I like, all the hits that I thought he was going to play, he did. Execution was perfect, you know what I'm saying? Lays was cool, background dancers did their thing. It was very entertaining. Jermaine Dupri was up there, dressed very peculiar, but I don't know what that was about. And it was a good time. All in all, I give Usher's performance, out of 10, I give it like an 8 or 9. As far as Super Bowl performances go, he did his thing thizzle. And then of course, it's not a Usher performance if he don't get somebody upset at home. If Usher ain't making you feel some type of way, then she really didn't go to an Usher concert, apparently, because everything was cool. Then Usher did he held Alicia Keys tightly and had to smile. And I know Swizz Beatz was backstage somewhere. I'm just dying in your arms tonight. It must have been something you said. I know that had to hurt, boy. I know that had to hurt. He was in the back like, but I'm Swiss. You can't do me like this. You gonna do this to me? Damn it, Usher. It was hilarious. It was very hilarious. But that's just how it is, man. That's how it is. Usher got to get us riled up. He loved making it look like he messed around with somebody's girl on stage. So if you didn't know, Sunny, one of the View hosts, she went and did an Ancestry.com. And if you know anything about the View or Sunny, she is a level 5 diamond race peddler. There's tiers with this race peddling stuff. And like, she's up there. And it's so ironic because in her ancestry, come to find out, her ancestors come from Spain, and they were slave traders. Interesting. The woman who's always talking about racism and slavery, right? Your ancestors, right? Because, people always love to say, my ancestors this, which they don't know who the hell their ancestors are until they do something like that, like they trace it back. Your ancestors owned slaves, and they were Spanish. They were from Spain, okay? They were from Spain, all right? So all this holier than thou needs to stop because you're part of the problem. That's the crazy thing. You were part of the problem, ma'am. You're part of the problem. Now, we all know that Tucker Carlson had an interview with Putin that has been all over the place, and it's been talked. Now, with the interview, I watched the whole interview, and for the most part, the interview basically was one, he gave context and history in regards to the relationship that Ukraine and Russia has. That was a majority of the interview. It was really a long-standing history lesson on Russia and Ukraine. He basically talked about how he either wanted to join Ukraine earlier, around the time where it was George Bush Jr., right after the Bill Clinton era, but that didn't work out. And then once that didn't work out, he was like, all right, cool. As long as NATO doesn't extend out east, then we'll be fine. Which that eventually ended up happening, and of course, Putin had an issue with that because he feels like NATO's basically controlled by the United States. And the NATO thing was a big issue in regards to why essentially there was a conflict with Ukraine. That's what I believed, and he basically said it in so many words. And then when Tucker Carlson kept asking, would you negotiate with Joe Biden and talk about this and that? He was like, there's nothing to talk about. If the U.S. stops sending aid, there is basically demilitarization when it comes to N-words that rhymes with Yahtzee that I can't really say, or this app gonna get tricky on me. Because he talked about there's a lot of Yahtzeeism over there in Ukraine. He did say that. And that was something he's really trying to go after. And then when Tucker asked him about Poland and Lithuania and expanding after Ukraine, he said no. He said they don't want these places, and there really is no strategic advantage to gather up more of those lands. It's just NATO going out east, the neo-Yahtsification, and basically they feel like, especially Putin, he feels like Ukraine is basically a state controlled by the United States interest. And that's also a big issue. So that's the most of what I got. That's the most of what I got out of the interview for the most part. The history lesson, Ukraine, Russia, basically saying, he don't really even have to negotiate with the president. This could be settled with a couple moves, and then they could negotiate, and that'd be it. So maybe there's a little more nuance to this conflict, which we're not talking about. And then he says, well, yeah, he wants it to end, but he feels as if the rhetoric or the vibe coming from the United States is, oh, we just need to beat Russia. We're going to beat Russia through Ukraine. And that's just not happening. And he says it's not going to happen. They talked about the Nord Stream 2. It was just a lot going on. It was just a lot going on in the interview. But, it was 2 hours. It was very informative. All of legacy media is basically losing their minds because now they're basically, coming for Tucker. He didn't ask some hardball questions. Even though he did ask some questions about the war, he asked him about that reporter who's basically being detained as a spy, saying he wasn't a spy. He asked him some tough questions, but I do think he allowed him to speak. He wanted to hear what he had to say. I do think we need an interview from Zelensky in response. And maybe even, I would say maybe Joe Biden, but he's out of it. So all in all, very good information from this interview. We'll see how the legacy media tries to dismantle it as we continue to move on, because they're hating on Tucker. They're hating on him. They mad he was able to get such a high profile interview. They mad he was able to put it together basically with his team. And he's been going up ever since legacy media threw him out. So we gonna see what happens. But until then, get to the bag, goddamn.